welcome to We Have Spoken, Season 2, Episode 1.
We're back.
Yes, this is the podcast discussing our favorite show, our favorite Star Wars show, The Mandalorian. On this episode, we'll be discussing the first episode of the second season. What the hell is the title of that episode?
I think Chapter 9?
It's just called Chapter 9? No.
It's Chapter 9 in the Marshal, right?
The Marshal.
Oh, it's the Marshal. Yes. Okay. Anyways, my name is Dennis, and I'm going to be serving up pearls of wisdom throughout the show. Crate pearls, that is. And with me, as always, I have my co-host, my prequel apologist, Ricky.
I'm back. I'm happy to be back.
He's back.
Oh, man. I have so much to say.
And we have a special guest today. He's a friend, a former colleague, and a fellow nerd. Naz, welcome.
Hey, thank you very much for having me. Also, competitor. Yes. You got to put competitor.
Oh, competitor. Yes, yeah. We can plug that stuff later.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for coming. I'm really excited to just have this show back, and I'm excited to just be talking about The Mandalorian, and I'm excited to have like, we figured out a way to do this just like the rest of the world did. We're doing this.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
We're recording this, together. So I can see Ricky's dog over there in the corner. This is great. Yeah. And then I swear somewhere lurking around here is our producer, Lindsay, who is bringing balance to the Force behind the scenes, as always.
Yeah, lots happened this past year, but it's nice to get back to normal in some way by doing this.
Yes, and I just want to point out like a couple things, like because I know people were asking, like, "Hey, are you going to do more shows and stuff?" And it was never really my intent to do this outside of The Mandalorian. I know we had talked about doing a speculative episode, where we talk about all the rumors, but I was like, I don't really want to play with that. And then I had actually done the work of recording one special episode for the Clone Wars, which ended earlier this year, and was also written and produced by Dave Filoni, who is a head writer of this show, or one of the head writers. But it didn't happen. And then there was also...
You got distracted.
Yeah, the world got weird. And then there was also the Disney Gallery, The Mandalorian, which is a behind-the-scenes look at this show, episode. I don't know if Naz, if you've watched that. It's super
Watched
cool.
A couple of them. Yeah.
Oh my God, yeah.
I highly recommend it. I highly recommend Clone Wars, but that's really all I'm going to talk about those, because I didn't really get around to doing those. I mean, the reason I didn't do a Clone Wars one is because Ricky didn't bother to watch the show. So let's talk about The Mandalorian really quick before we get into that spoiler territory that we're going to hang out in for the rest of the episode. Let's pretend that there's somebody watching or listening to us right now that has not watched this episode of the show. And I kind of want to see what your impressions are just of the show or of this episode, and like what would convince somebody out there to go watch it right now or after
it felt very, you don't need to see anything else to understand this episode. It kind of is very standalone. It connects to the story in some ways, but it's its own cool piece of Star Wars, little slice of it. And I think that's why it worked. That's why it was a good chapter, I guess, episode 1 of season 2. It was a nice, warm welcome back into that Mando's world, I guess.
I kind of felt like it does need you to have seen Star Wars, though.
Yeah, you didn't know what the armor is, right? He looks like Star Wars dude. He does Star Wars dude things. There's aliens.
Yeah, I guess. Naz, what do you think?
I very much enjoyed the feel of it. I was very happy to dive back into Star Wars and have like some familiar things to see. We'll get into kind of some of the stuff that actually happened, but the feeling of the whole episode felt and we'll talk about this a little bit later because it's part of my, I wouldn't say complaint, but a concern that I have, but it definitely just felt like this warm familiarity. Like it wasn't hard to jump in and kind of look at it and go, what is happening? It was like, I know what's happening and I like it. And I felt, I watched it with my kids and I was kind of, my son had to kind of get me to stop squealing because there was a few times where I was just like, yeah, I'm so excited. Like, this is the type of show I wanted to see when I was your age. And he's like, okay, Dad, whatever, just let me watch it. So, I very much enjoyed it.
You also got to remember the last piece of live action Star Wars left a really bad taste in a lot of people's mouths.
That's true.
At least 50%.
Not mine. Yeah. I liked it, but I like this more.
And that reminds me, we did do a special episode on that movie, and that felt weird. It felt weird, yeah, because like it went from us enjoying this and letting this show get us hopeful for that movie, and then we went and saw the movie, and we just and that right there is why I'm not doing a podcast for other parts of Star Wars, because
you don't want to be negative ever.
I don't want to be negative more than usual, so. Okay. Well, with that said, I think we can get into spoilers. In case anybody needs a refresher for what occurred, let's briefly recap. This episode is the one where Mando helps a small town marshal kill a crate dragon in exchange for Boba Fett's armor. And tell me I'm wrong. That's the episode, right?
That's what happened.
Yeah.
Oh, man, that was such a cool.
Nice and tight.
Yeah.
Good job.
They found a way to work that back in.
Pitch.
Like it's a thing people wanted, right? To bring Boba Fett back in some capacity.
I would say some people wanted that. The same way some people liked The Rise of Skywalker. I think some people
you got the best of both worlds though. You got him back in a weird way, but then you got like the real one back in a weird, it's a whole. I'm very happy with how they handled that whole situation.
Jumping way ahead.
Yeah,
that's fine. We're in
He's jumping way ahead, but I think when Ricky jumps ahead, that's usually when it's time to say, I guess it's time to do light side, dark side, because it seems like we're going to talk about the big things that we liked and maybe the things that kind of missed or something like that. So Go for it, Ricky. I had it written down too. I actually said to myself, hey, Boba Fett's back. And I'm kind of conflicted on that. Like there was a part of me as a kid that dreamed and wished for this to happen. And, and then I got older and like I've said before, I actually was not somebody who enjoyed reading or experiencing the expanded universe. For me, I was like this weird snob that only considered the movies canon, or like, the things that like George Lucas actually like produced or wrote or directed, whatever. And so I always considered the comics and the video games and stuff and the books to be like kind of like fan fiction. And I understand, as I got older, like, I understand that like, well, technically every Marvel comic that was written after Stan Lee stopped writing them is fan fiction also, right? Like it's like anytime you hand the baton to somebody else, it's technically fan fiction. It's just the only difference is they're getting paid by the people who own the property, So I'm more forgiving of that now. And so like, as I got older, I was cool with hearing stories about how like, oh, Boba Fett didn't die in that Sarlacc pit, but then Disney went and killed all of the expanded universe as canon, right? Like, so it gave them the chance to do this again. And then I know there was supposed to be a Boba Fett movie with, I think, Josh Trank, right? Like was going to.
Oh yeah. Yep.
They were talking about casting Michael B. Jordan in that movie too, which was
that's because
he did a Reddit thing, and apparently there is a trailer shot for that movie somewhere.
Interesting.
But I mean, in any case, I don't mind that he's back because we knew it was inevitable. I just didn't feel that feeling of excitement that I thought I would when it happened.
You kind of got like the budget version in an odd sense, because when you first see the armor, it's like it looks, the silhouette is the same, but it's like the off-brand a bit.
In fairness, I think it was the better version because it was Timothy Oliphant.
Yeah.
I don't know. I love Timothy Oliphant a lot, and so it was a clever way of introducing Boba Fett, like, or letting you know, hey, this episode is going to be very Boba Fett centric, whether or not we actually show you him. We're going to remind you about him a lot, you know, like, so.
Yeah, it was Timothy Oliphant, but they didn't even try to like make it look like the armor was fit to him. And it was like,
I actually really liked that. Yeah, I like that. I knew as a fan that it didn't fit him right, and he didn't even try to keep it on for more than like 5 seconds. He just immediately took the helmet off, and I love that. I loved everything that that Din, or as we racistly call him, Mando. I love everything that Mando reacted to regarding Boba Fett, like or the Boba Fett lore and stuff. His reactions to all of it were great. Like, he just automatically was like, "Give me the armor," you know. I have to take it by right, you know. And that guy was willing to accept that was going to happen too, you know. So I liked all of that.
Yeah.
I just don't, I guess, like, as somebody who doesn't like the prequels, and I, like in a horror movie, when the second you see the killer's face, like, because they took the mask off, it suddenly takes all the mystery away from them. For me, the second George Lucas cast Tamora Morrison as Jango and the clone troopers, he just ruined like 70% of Star Wars for me. You know, like, I don't know. He didn't ruin it, but you know what I mean? It took the mystery, and then I think
saved money.
And then I think I always knew that one day either that guy or the kid was gonna play Boba Fett somewhere, you know. So
right.
I honestly thought it was gonna be the kid, but as they started moving, showing, you know, trying to think, phrase my words here. As they started moving in the direction where I thought they were going, it kind of made sense why they didn't, you know.
Yeah, well, I mean, the cool thing about getting Tamura is you still have the window, or there's a door open where he could also play Captain Rex.
Right.
He could play both.
That'd be the fake out.
He could play both, though. He could play Boba and Captain Rex, because they would both
working actor right there.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, he'll play Rex in the Obi-Wan show.
I still have fingers crossed that he'll be Rex in this show, but he could be Rex in the Obi-Wan show.
What if Rex kills him?
Rex is confirmed to have been at the Battle of Endor.
He's a beard dude, right?
Are they saying that that's the beard dude at the Battle of Endor? They're actually officially saying that now? I like that.
I have seen that somewhere, yeah. That's why they made him match him.
So was it Rex on Tatooine, or was it Boba Fett?
I'm pretty sure it was Boba Fett, and I think that character that showed up at the very end is also the same spur jangly character that we saw in season 1. So
you think that is the spur jangly and not the Marshal?
Ooh,
I think
good call. So. It could be the Marshal. You're right. It could have been the Marshal
picking up
wearing Boba Fett's armor.
Yeah, right? At the time.
Why I think it's Boba Fett though is he's obviously he knows more about bounty hunter things. So why would he be looking at Mando riding off with his armor? I'm assuming he picked up some sort of tracker or fob. That's where I'm leaning that.
I mean, you're making a lot of leaps right now, but sure,
yeah.
I think when you start leaping, it's time to move on to the next topic.
Yeah, let's talk about that dragon.
Let's talk about the dragon. I mean, what did you guys think about it? The crate dragon.
I'm very much looking forward to Dune. And that crate dragon was a nice teaser for next December. Yeah, I thought it was awesome, but my understanding of a crate dragon was slimmer because I guess when Tatooine, Obi-Wan, not Obi-Wan, C-3PO and R2-D2 go past the big skeletal remains at the beginning of episode 4. And I thought that was a crate dragon, and I thought it was like a slimmer snakier thing. This thing
A little
looked
smaller.
Yeah, a little
Yeah.
smaller. This thing looked huge and awesome, and I thought the monster effect was super dope, and it was a very cool. Everything about the presence of the monster that was in this episode, which we now know is a crate dragon, was rad, but it wasn't what I expected of a crate dragon.
Did you like that aspect ratio change during that whole scene?
You don't
The
mean
aspect ratio?
You mean the scale.
Sorry, the scale. Sorry. Yes.
Yes.
They widened that whole sequence, which was kind of cool.
You are talking about
Yeah,
aspect ratio.
I've read somewhere that it was shot in IMAX. I don't think that's true, but definitely it was a wider frame.
Oh, okay. I
didn't
didn't
notice that.
Yeah.
And as he's speeding off and getting watched by Boba Fett is when it kind of zooms back down.
Oh, very cool.
I'll have to check that out again.
Felt a little more cinematic.
It's a very Batman. What was that?
Christopher
Nolan
yeah.
move.
All of them, yeah. I will say this, as somebody who played, some of the video games, like I played Star Wars Galaxies back in the day, and I used to go all over Tatooine. And it was weird to me that Dave Filoni or Jon Favreau had to create a brand new town that we've never heard of in Tatooine. That was strange, because that's like, no, I know Tatooine. I've been all over it, and there's no moss.
Well, apparently that town was seeded in one of the books, one of the first canon books since the reboot. Yeah.
Oh, since the reboot. Okay, that's fair.
Well, and I also like when she showed the map of Tatooine that it wasn't on the map, because it's like some.
I know. I got that. I'm just saying I walked every inch of that. Back in the day. And so what I was going to say, the other thing about that is, like, I actually fought crate dragons in that video game, which is not canon anymore, that game. And they looked a little different, and they were definitely above ground. They weren't subterranean type creatures. So I was, obviously I think a lot of people got that Dune feel as soon as it started doing that. And,
I mean, Tusken Fremen.
But I mean, you're right. It was a very cool effect, and I really did like that they channeled some of the iconic dragon imagery by like having it breathe acid all over everybody, and then when it disappears, when they think they killed it the first time, and then it comes out of the top of the mountain and just starts spewing all over everybody. That was just classic fantasy, that was really cool, because that's what Star Wars has always been, is a nice blend of sci-fi and fantasy. So I really liked the dragon, even though I had to like stop myself from nitpicking all the things that were inconsistent with my previous experiences with crate dragons. So,
did you get pearls in the game if you killed them?
There are pearls. A crate pearl is a thing. It is a thing. Yes. I have a question for you guys about, it's kind of in general about the whole episode. And I'm gonna pose it to you, because like it was the one thing that made it hard for me to fully enjoy this episode. I understand the Mando has been growing as a character, like as a heroic character over the course of the show. But like, honestly, when he saw that armor and he was prepared to just shoot that guy right there in the bar to take that armor. But instead, that guy, like Cobb Vanth, played by Timothy Olyphant, convinces the Mandalorian to not only hunt and kill a crate dragon, but in the process also broker peace between the Tusken Raiders and that town. Do you guys like why? Like, why didn't he just shoot him and take the armor and be done?
Well, so Cobb Vanth Cobb Vanth. We have to say his full name every time. Cobb Vanth made a very good observation at the beginning, thinking he was going to definitely have to fight against the Mandalorian. But then he saw the child with the Mandalorian and said, maybe this guy is different than I first thought. And I think that was kind of showing what was going on, because the fact, frankly, that Din Djarin is toting around a child based on and what we've seen in his character, it is not surprising that he would save a town and rather go a different route than killing. But he'll kill when he needs to, and he was prepared to kill the guy. If the guy had drawn on him, he would have killed him. So I think he was. Yeah, go ahead.
I think it's just it's jarring for me because earlier in the episode he fully kills that guy after getting the information, like on that other planet at the arena. He kills that character, I think Goresh or something like that, played by John Leguizamo.
Oh, that's so good.
Where like he totally unnecessarily kills that guy.
Well, he doesn't kill him. He just doesn't save him.
Does.
No,
that's not a Batman move. No. He intentionally shot the light out so that those creatures would go and eat him to death.
That would not stand trial.
The difference being that guy, one-eyed John Leguizamo, admitted to hunting down Mandalorians and killing them for the armor.
That is true.
The Marshal said, "I bought this and I need it because I am the Marshal and I'm protecting these people." And it was a totally different situation.
I'll counter it because Mando's very quick to rebuttal by saying something like, "The kid's seen worse before. Like if I kill you, you know."
Right.
But I mean, we've seen him do this before in episode 4.
I mean, I get that John Leguizamo is a bad guy. I get that. His character. Sorry. What did you have something else to say, Ricky?
No, I see your point, and I don't think there's like a right answer to it, but I'll just say, I mean, we've seen him do this before, and he wasn't physically provoked.
Because here's my thing. If his mission is to take Baby Yoda back to the Jedi, and his side mission or his submission is to reconnect with the Mandalorian coverts because they'll help him chart a path, then like the sum total of what he got out of this episode was some junky pieces of armor, and that's it, right? And
a new friend.
Yes, he does have a new friend, and I hope Timothy Oliphant comes back again. But it just felt like
doesn't die in the second to last episode.
Yes, that would be horrible. It just felt to me like, what was the point of all of that? You know, when like it was one of the longer episodes of the show, and I don't get me wrong, I really loved feeling immersed in that world again, and I loved all the little details, which I could talk endlessly about. I just felt like, what happened? Like you went and hunted a beast because this guy told you, hunt the beast for me, and then I'll give you this thing that you suddenly want that you didn't know you wanted.
Yeah,
before you met me.
You could take at any second.
And there was so many times he could have taken it. So many. Yes.
Well, I mean, Mando is Mando is a man of his word, though.
Yeah. He is.
So he could have taken it at any time, but he's also going to do the right thing unless he gets double crossed.
I'll take it. I'll take the answer. Yeah. It's a good answer.
He's a samurai, man. It's Lone Wolf and Cub. I'm telling you.
I gotcha.
Everyone knows it.
Okay. Well,
what else you got next?
What do you guys have? What other light or dark things really stood out to you?
I mean, I'll kind of go with like I don't feel like we're dunking on this episode, but I mean, in the same note, he gathered all this help to kill the dragon. He brokered peace between the Tusken Raiders and the mining village, but he ended up killing the thing single-handedly. He did all the work.
Yeah,
he kind of did.
And it I don't hate that.
Mos Pelgo was the name of the
Mos
town.
Pelgo.
But he didn't load the explosives onto the thing by himself. He barely lifted a finger there.
So you like that like Jaws reference they had when he yells at the dude for dropping the bomb? That was funny.
I didn't notice that was a Jaws reference, but I believe you.
I could see,
and like thinking back on it,
I could see how it could be.
Quentin there tinks, but
yeah,
it was just there was I think we're all a little off on like what is this dude's skill. Like he's a badass dude, but then like one episode he gets his ass handed by like a mudhorn, and then this one he's taking down a giant worm. You know,
Yeah,
there's
and he's swimming around in acid inside its stomach, right? I'm assuming.
yeah.
It's
Yeah.
bile that it's spitting up, but it could be a gland that it's spitting out of, I suppose. But he is covered in that green goo when he comes out of it, and I'm like, how covered are you by Beskar?
Right.
I'm
Beskar
pretty
also
sure.
makes cloth invincible.
Yes, apparently. Yeah,
It's a Beskar shawl.
yeah. It was a bit of a stretch for me to see him go inside the mouth of that thing
Yeah.
and then come out later. And I just felt bad because it's like, okay, wait a second. I just want to clarify something really quick here. So he flew in there and then flew out and was totally fine and then blew up everybody else that was inside of that thing's stomach who had only just gone in there probably moments earlier.
Yeah, they didn't have the Beskar.
He probably said hi to a few of them. I'm just saying, like,
I'm gonna get out of here.
Yeah, he blew up everybody else inside that thing.
On the other side, I liked how badass Din was at the beginning of the episode. I thought him in the club was pretty clearly his wheelhouse. Fighting a bunch of dudes who think that they're tougher than they are, and
yeah.
I really liked that fight. I liked him using his vibro knife in a way that my daughter said, "Oh, I see why this is TV-14 when he stabs those two guys." And I was like, "Yeah, it's pretty awesome." Using his helmet, like just leaning into punches and shattering the guy's hand, and I feel like that is a Mandalorian's wheelhouse. But to Ricky's point, being able to kill that crate, by himself really was like, man, at the beginning of the first season, he was kind of not good with animals, and then not only does he have no problem killing this crate, like just going, yeah, cool, I'm just going to fly into its, jaws and detonate a bomb, which apparently I thought he was going to detonate it from it was quite something. And also I've seen that a couple times before in other things. So it was very much like, all right, dude, fly into the monster. You're Drax, you're John Carter, you're, every Disney hero.
Disney
We just needed a Star Wars one. So now all Star Wars has a guy that flies into a mouth, and all Disney. That's the new way of killing monsters, is from the inside out.
Going back to that Fight Club scene, I really dug all the background aliens and creatures. Yeah. Most of them weren't new. They're all things that we've seen. And I think they could have, threw in a bunch of new aliens for eventually toys and stories to be made of. But I like that there's that familiar in the crowd.
But what I like about this show is that it's actually taking all the familiar and it's giving them a little bit purpose and a little bit more depth. You know what I mean? Like,
big time.
Yeah.
Gamorrean gladiators is the best thing ever. And these guys like going at each other and like seemingly are an actual threat.
Yeah.
Versus, dudes in fat suits with weird fingers, that can barely hold their stuff and just get eaten by rancors.
Yeah.
Like I was like, oh, this is why you would have them as guards of your palace, because they can swing that axe.
Exactly. They're just legitimizing everything. Yeah.
Like even what was the bartender? I don't know. What race is he?
No, that is his race, bro.
Okay.
He's a Weequay.
The show is once again reinforcing its racist ways, because just like Mando called Queel Ugnaught, apparently Timothy Oliphant just calls the bartender Weequay instead of asking him what the guy's name is.
I know, they're like good buddies. They're like fist bumping at the bar.
Do you know how good of buddies they are?
I mean,
you let him die right in that flashback.
Do you know who played Weequay?
No.
W. Earl Brown.
Oh, is that the sheriff, the head of the sheriff's department?
No, that is Dan Doherty from Deadwood.
Oh, okay. That was his. Got it.
Dan Doherty is one of like the guys that works under Ian McShane's character, but he was a regular on Deadwood. Awesome. And so like when I looked it up, because I was like, this guy, no, this is this is the coolest Weequay I've ever seen in Star Wars, and I'm
Oh.
including Hondo. I'm including Hondo Ohnaka in
He's
that
like the
list.
only other one, right?
No, there's a bunch of them. There's a bunch. Like,
I mean, Hondo has a ride.
Shame on you, Ricky. They were first. The first, my recollection is like on in Jabba's palace and on the barge on the Katana in Return of the Jedi. There's several Weequay there.
Well, they're all working for Jabba, right? They're all tough.
So
guys
when
on
I
Jabba's.
saw the one in the bar, I kind of wondered, is that the one from Jabba's palace? Like, did he get a new
That'd be kinda
job?
cool.
You know, like
Yeah.
because like
No,
I
he blew up
recognize.
on the Katana.
Oh yeah, the Katana might have blown up a bit, or crashed.
Blew up a little bit.
Yeah, just a little bit. But speaking of blowing up, like I really like that we got to see that ghetto Death Star explosion.
I thought that was cool.
And
I thought it was. I like people watching TV in Star Wars. You know, like watching the news and stuff like that.
God.
Like
that totally would be the news if like we blew up the Death Star tomorrow. Like
for
that would
like
be all over the news.
Half of that galaxy, that was like their 9/11 though. Like that's
true.
But not the Outer Rim.
Not
no.
Not the Outer Rim.
Yeah,
But yeah,
I
you're
would
right.
say, yeah, that's true.
It's true, and actually, that's a good point. I like that exploration, but from the perspective of the people on that planet who were under occupation, it would be different. Although I really enjoyed what the ship repair woman, I forget what her name is.
Peli Moto.
I really like what she said about how she was afraid to leave the walls of the city. She was like, I don't have anybody to complain to, you know, about the lack of resources. And that was all a result of the collapse of the Empire because
I thought both her and Cobb like actually filled in a lot of blanks for us, right? Like like I was saying, like the second the Empire like scooted out of there was a power vacuum. And then, you know, the mining collection moved in and turned them all into a slave camp within like minutes, right? The second
that's what he said.
They're like celebrating this 9/11 or whatever you want to call it on TV. And then all of a sudden these guys show up and they just start shooting the old bartender and everything. Oh no, it actually was Weequay was the bartender there. Huh?
Yeah.
Dude, it's been how many years and he still hasn't bothered to learn that guy's name?
I know. He's a real jackass. Well, all anyone called him was Marshal too, so I guess you know, whatever. I mean, it took Din coming in to broker any kind of peace with the locals, which was I thought pretty cool. And I actually liked that the Marshal didn't immediately just go, "Oh yeah, this seems cool since you can talk to him." There was that feeling of animosity and like this might not work because everyone has bad feelings about each other. And it took that kind of shared trauma to get them to have a grudging respect for each other. And actually, I thought it was pretty cool how the Tuskens, what do we want to call them? Sand people? Tusken Raider is a derogatory too, because they're just calling them the Raiders of Camp Tusken. That's awful. Sand people seems weird. How about space? How about Tatooine Fremen? We'll call them Tatooine Fremen. The Tatooine Fremen, I liked humanizing them with language and with like Din having some respect for them and also like them respecting him because he knew their language. They
totally would respect each other, right? Because like they're just as oppressed in the galaxy, right? As the Mandalorians.
Yeah, totally.
Like, and so it's really funny to see like Din, who's normally this very, I wouldn't say he's reclusive or anything like that, but he generally doesn't warm up to everybody he meets, right? It takes some extra effort, you know, to get him to warm up to people. But he's like down to just hang out with Tuskens and tell stories all night and just like, you know, just chat. And I thought, again, they're using these background characters that we've always seen in Star Wars, and they are giving them depth, right? Because like I cared enough to look up who that Weequay was because I was like, I really like this guy, and I don't know why, other than just like he's giving this character he's making him 3-dimensional, you know?
Yeah.
And so
It's something to bounce off of for him.
Yeah. And so just like what you were saying, Nas, like how cool it was to see the Tuscans or the Tatooine Fremen, whatever you want to call them. I think it was also, it made it more tragic when a bunch of them got dead. Like,
they were like the only ones dying.
I know they were.
There was
pretty noble.
I saw a very few amount of like the Mos Pelgo people dying too in the acid spills. I rewatched just to make sure.
The Fremen went in and like offered themselves as bait, which I thought they were like. I was like,
funny.
look at them.
Well, the
They're
dude offered the bantha as bait, and that just didn't go the way he wanted it to.
I'm talking like the other three when they went in there to call the dragon out at the end.
Yeah.
I thought it was like, look at these guys are like they see the bigger picture,
the greater good,
the greater good, right?
Yeah.
Like they're serving the greater good. You didn't see when they drew straws. They're like, this guy's got to go, and like they've got to call the dragon out and hope for the best. For sure. And I kind of like that. The one thing that it begs the question though is, where did Din? When was he with the Sand People long enough to learn their language? Number two, having lived with them, who seem kind of like people of the land, why does he have such a problem with critters? You know, like we heard this. Well, so when the Sand People dogs came out, and then he like knew how to talk to them, I was like, okay, that's cool, but where'd he get this? Oh, because he's lived with Sand People. He knows that these are Sand People dogs. He knows how to talk to these things. But then at the same time, I was like, what was his problem? Why did Quill have to teach him how to ride those things, you know, and kind of chastise him about his Mandalorian-ness and not being
the blurgs,
yeah. And also like when he fought the Mudhorn and was kind of like thrown off, and it was just a big mess. And I understand like hand to hand with a Mudhorn is a mess, but it seemed like almost a leap to now where he's like, no, I'm cool. I'm one with the land.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in fairness, in first season, he was cool with the Tuscans already.
He was cool with the Tuscans.
The last time he went
to
True. He was a little uncomfortable riding the creatures and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah. That's all. That's all I mean. It's okay. It's not out of the realm of believability, because maybe he's, you know, you could be familiar with one kind of critter and not another, but it's just one of those things where I was like, also, so going back to some of my concerns, this episode was a combo of the egg and the village episodes where he's protecting a town, and he's going after a monster. And I didn't mind, like, it seemed like the best of both worlds. Like, this was the episode that maybe they had wanted to make before, you know, like this was like, it was bigger and badder and definitely tighter and had more depth to it than those ones had.
But it seems weird to do a do-over already in season 2.
Already a do-over,
on episode 1, right?
Yeah.
I would love to have waited till season 4 to do a do-over and make that, you know, give him another one of those. Like it's kind of weird for the Mandalorian to be just going back to like his just general side quests so quickly.
Right.
You know, and so and you know, the more you play side quests in video games, the more you realize they're pretty much all the same.
They're all the same, yeah.
Yeah.
It's fetch quest.
Yeah, it's a fetch quest. So I'll agree. It was a little weird to have one already and be so similar to the previous ones.
Yeah, and they got
another
a pearl.
And another fetch quest on Tatooine. It's like, come on.
I love that when he's like, are you serious? When he says like, he's on Tatooine.
I've spent plenty of time on Tatooine. Yeah.
It's like, shit. It
was weird that he's spent so much time on Tatooine and never heard of a Mandalorian being there, you know? So like you would think somebody would have been like, oh, I've seen somebody dressed like you before. Yeah. They live down the road.
How long was Boba Fett on Tatooine though?
A long ass time.
Was he?
He worked for Jabba.
Yeah, but how long was he like there?
All three movies. He lived there. He lived there, and the only time he left is when Jabba would send him to go collect Han. Like he hung out. He just stood around and he stood around in his palace, just doing nothing, just nodding at people.
No, he
Like,
was doing other stuff. I mean, he. But
I didn't read
all
the
three
expanded
of
universe, so no. In my
No, I'm
opinion,
talking about
he was,
no Clone Wars. There was a lot of him in
I
Clone
was
Wars.
I was kidding, but yeah.
Okay.
I mean, let's talk about that rocket he launched though with that armor, or not Boba Fett, but the Marshal.
If you don't mind, that was actually my nerd moment. Like for this show, like that was the thing that made me most squeal. And I didn't want to, but like, here's the thing. Like, you guys know, I collect a lot of toys. I mean, like it's just what I've always done. And so, my first toys that I collected were Kenner Star Wars toys. And so I know the lore, I know the legend of the Boba Fett J slot, rocket backpack firing action, it's a figure that you really can't buy unless you have hundreds of thousands of dollars, because they were going to release it with this feature, but then at the same time, some kit died from like a projectile coming out of a Battlestar Galactica ship, right? I think that's the story.
Yeah, that's right. Battlestar
And
Galactica
so
ship.
once some
Shot
kid
his eye out.
choked or shot his eye out or something like that, it's a legend. It's an urban legend. Who knows?
They made those springs way too tough.
Yeah. But once that happened, Kenner immediately pulled this Boba Fett that was it was already on the production line. And so like there's very few of them out there in the world that you can buy. One sold at an auction last year for like $186,000. That's how rare they are. And
Steve Sansweet had one stolen from him.
Ouch.
No.
But he got it back.
But the hilarious thing about that thing is like, yes, we have never seen that rocket fired in all of Star Wars ever. But on the back of the box for that Boba Fett, he does take that ridiculous pose where he just puts both arms to his sides and leans forward and sticks his butt out and fires a rocket. And so I really love that Timothy Oliphant got to do that not only once, but twice. And additionally, like the other nod I felt that was to the Kenner's collectors was when they were arguing about the scale of the diorama they were creating for the Krayt Dragon versus the Tusken Raiders. And he's like, that's not to scale. I felt this episode was a tiny love letter to all the Star Wars fans that collected these toys. Like
totally.
No, I totally dig like they embrace that pose. Because I think we see Jango launch a rocket in Attack of the Clones, but he's like kind of in a cool crawling pose.
Yeah, you're right. He might have done it, but he did it like the cool way, right? Yeah, you're right.
But like this, they're like, nah, I'm just gonna bend over.
I'm gonna bend over with both arms at my side and pretend I have 5 points of articulation. Well, and that's it. Yeah.
The little targeting thing came down. He gets to use the targeting thing. It raises up automatically. He tips over. He fires one. I don't know where he got the second one.
That's what I was saying. Where did the second rocket come from?
Well, they look different though, didn't they?
They look pretty much the same.
No, but from the original.
Oh yeah, they look different from the original one. Yeah, the original one was more it's off the back, but I guess they don't want the rocket taller than Timothy Oliphant.
Yes. But I just couldn't help myself. I lost it when I saw that moment, and then I lost it again when they were arguing about the scale, and then the Tuskens tried to fix the scale to make it more appealing to Timothy, and it was too funny. All of it was too funny.
I have to. So go ahead.
Oh, I was going to ask you what did you guys nerd out on the most?
So I want to talk a little. There's a couple things, but I want to talk a little more about the rocket pack thing, because that was my kind of gray thing where Din and Cobb both really knew how to fly those rocket packs. I remember Din when he got his Phoenix, thing. The armor
asked him
to practice a lot.
Have you studied the Rising Phoenix? Yeah.
So apparently,
a little bit.
And Din have studied the Rising Phoenix because they were swooping around like awesome, and it made me stoked to see them flying really well. But I was also like, but that rocket pack of Bobas goes off at the slightest tap. It happened in Jedi and it happened here. All you have to do is hit it on the back and whoever's wearing it is out of your way. It was the best. And I kind of liked that they kind of homaged that.
You be sure to tell them I didn't break it.
Yeah. Just smack. Oh, there he goes. Right in, out of the way. That was cool.
Yeah, that part, that was a nice nod to what we remember. Like they were really milking, like, I mean, we've probably seen Boba Fett on screen a total of 10 minutes ever. And they were just milking everything.
Yeah, I mean, it's what you wanted to see from him, what you fantasized as a kid, like Boba Fett doing.
Yeah,
you just got it in this other character, like.
Yeah,
which is kind of what the Mandalorian is anyway. It's like everything I wanted to see out of Boba Fett, the Mandalorian is doing, but without the baggage of being,
of being the dork that got eaten by a Sarlacc.
yeah.
After blind Han accidentally knocks the jetpack and causes him to run into the katana. Yeah, that was all embarrassing and really not the least cool way for the coolest bounty hunter to go out ever.
And
I think that's why I stopped caring, so.
Yeah.
But I do like the little leaps that they give you, little clues that, this crate dragon seemed to have killed a Sarlacc and took over his pit, or the crate just ate a Sarlacc that was already dead because maybe Boba Fett killed it, or who knows. But, for whatever reason, we're getting those logical leaps that, okay, the armor is already out. The Jawas found the armor at some point, so Boba Fett got out because, it's already implied very early in that episode. It is weird to me that Boba Fett's been walking around this whole time and kind of like probably knows that Marshal Vanth has it and he doesn't gone to claim it. Whatever.
He's old, right?
Yeah,
he's older.
And it almost gives a hint of maybe he gave it up. Like I would kind of be okay if we never saw Boba Fett again. I don't think we won't, but I would be okay if like this was just a nod to, he lived. You didn't think he did, but he did. Mm-hmm. But also he gave it up. He's just living out in Tatooine, half Tusken. He had a Tusken, gaffy stick on his back and a rifle. Yeah. He was probably living among the Tuskens at that point and just was like, all right.
I mean, I have faith he'll do one more thing this season. And like you said, that'll be the book closed for Boba Fett. And
I'd be okay with that.
Yeah. I would be, but I don't think it's going to happen.
I don't think it's going to happen either.
Yeah.
Well, it depends on how much those sells or the toys sell for.
Well, before we get into more speculation, I think we should switch gears here and why don't we talk about what I like to call the midichlorians, which are all the little things that just should not matter, but they matter to us just a little bit, like they're just like the midichlorians actually matter to Ricky, but
they're gonna come back.
For me, I had a lot of little things that made me smile or just smirk a little bit. And I just wanted to see what you guys had. I have a few that I just kind of listed a bunch of Easter eggs together. And I was just curious if you guys caught any of them. Did you catch that Peli's R5 was the R5D4?
I thought it might have been, but I didn't know that it was, and I liked it.
Oh, he had the scorch marks on the top.
Yeah, that's cool.
From where he malfunctioned in the first movie when Uncle Owen was going to buy that one.
Yeah.
And then he blew up, and then R2 stepped in. Yeah,
there's a good story where R5 is actually the true savior of the Resistance, because while they're in the Sandcrawler, R2 spoke to R5, telling him about his mission, and R5 sacrificed himself.
Oh, that's funny.
It's a cool little story.
But I can see that.
It was nice to definitely nice to see that. I mean, on the same vein, the pod racer bike thing, we know what that is. They don't explain what it is, but you just know visually
Anakin's pod, yeah,
or some variation of his pod.
It's definitely the model of pod that Anakin drove.
Yeah.
And it's what Cobb Marshall is, or Cobb Vanth is
Cobb,
using as his like vehicle to get around. I thought that was really cool.
I did too.
I didn't catch it the first time I was watching it. I only it was on the second watch. I'm looking at that. I'm like, that's Anakin's pod. What or engine? It's the engine for his pod. Yeah. It's a little.
I caught that right away, and I liked it.
It's painted differently. Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought you mentioned the gaffy stick earlier. Like, I've only ever seen them beat Luke over the head with those things. I was quite surprised to see that they also function as toothbrushes for the banthas.
I like that. I like that they were taking care of those things. And I like seeing the banthas close up and like not just an elephant with a, shag carpet over its back, but like a more fully realized critter. It looked awesome. Yeah,
it was pretty cool. And then the only other one I had in there was like, as far as Easter eggs go, was that pearl that we mentioned earlier. Like that pearl actually had the crate pearl that you see the Jawas pull out, or the Tusken. Mm-hmm. No, the Tuskens pull out of it. Yeah. Do you guys know what the pearl is?
Nope.
Is it an egg?
No. It is not an egg. No. Okay, so they actually eat stones to clear their digestive system. And occasionally they accidentally eat kyber crystals.
Oh.
And kyber crystals inside a crate's stomach smooth out and become a pearl.
Big ass crystal.
Cool.
And a Jedi could use a crate pearl to make a lightsaber if they wanted to. They've shown up in older games and stuff before.
That's awesome.
I'll kind of pose something I noticed. So it's called Chapter 9. I with that being said, do you think they have like a definitive end in mind for the Mandalorian?
No.
Or that's what I took from that.
I think they'll do Chapter 842 if the people demand it.
Yeah, if it's still making money. And
yeah, there's other shows that have done that. They just keep listing chapter and chapter and chapter until it finally ends, and that's fine. It's just, that's what it is. They're supposed to be stories, right? Like the Mandalorian is a collection of stories, right? And so each episode is a chapter in that bigger book that is hopefully Din Djarin's story, but it doesn't even necessarily have to be. There's been rumors before that Pedro Pascal might dip out, and I'm like, if anybody could, it would be on this show, because like, he could always leave, and then we could start following the armorer, or we could just follow anybody else, and
any other actor in that armor.
And as long as we're following a Mandalorian, it doesn't matter which one is the Mandalorian, I suppose.
Right.
I don't have a problem with it being Chapter 9. Like, it's what else was it gonna be? Like,
Fair.
Dank Ferrick. I wrote that one down. That is a swear that Mando says. It's a Star Wars swear. Apparently, I think it was first heard by Horatio Sands' character in the first episode of The Mandalorian.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Dank Ferrick.
Yeah, Dank Ferrick. But he says that when their plan doesn't seem to be going well against the crate. I just thought that was interesting. I'm like, okay, cool. They're creating slang on the show. Cool.
I love sci-fi slang.
Yeah,
Shazbot.
Yes,
is a good one. What was they said frack all the time on Battlestar Galactica, as if I didn't know what they really meant.
I feel like Dank Ferrick is like, it has to be a really severe one, because like in our language, the ones with the longer syllables, or the more syllables, right, those are usually the worst ones. So I have to assume
that's their C word.
Yeah, Dank Ferrick was definitely no.
You can only say DF at school. You can only say DF.
Yeah. Exactly. What do you guys got? You got any of the weird little things in there?
We're 9 for 9. He used his flamethrower.
Oh, wait. He hasn't used it in every episode.
Yeah, he has.
Has he really?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
I'm almost positive that thing pops up in some capacity.
Every episode, huh? Are we counting how many times he successfully killed somebody with it? Because
Oh, he's killed no one with it.
No, that's not true.
no, he killed some
yeah.
stormtroopers and he killed some droids with it in the prison.
Yeah.
I rewatched the whole first season yesterday, by the way, just to kind of reacclimate to the world.
Yeah. The first time he uses it, he kills that stormtrooper. It's pretty brutal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I'll believe you. I'll believe that he used it 9 times.
I do like that he's using it. You know, it was
like
right
all his
on the
tools.
package of Boba Fett. Like Boba Fett shooting the flamethrower at the photo, and you never saw him use the flamethrower.
Wait, he didn't use it in Jedi?
No.
Are you sure?
He used the rope. Pretty sure he didn't.
He definitely used the rope. Yeah.
The rope. That's more exciting.
The rope's pretty good, man. This guy uses the rope really well. I do like that he's using the weapons.
There's like a Batman aspect of it. He has his gadgets, and you see him use them. They're not just for show or whatever.
Right. I'll tell you what is for show is his awesome spaceship, which he always leaves as far away from mission as possible.
The Razor's Crest.
The Razor's Crest is a delightful ship, and this was on one of my Metachlorians. My whole problem with the first season was he always left that thing as far back from mission command as possible. And they actually finally addressed it in this episode, which was you can't fly it out there. They'll see you and know you're coming. You can't fly it over the crate or it'll just dive. Because he was like, why don't I just blast it with my ship and be done? And I'm like, yeah, exactly. Like the same thing with a walker. The same thing with anything. Like use your ship for what a ship is for, which is blasting things.
Can you imagine if that ATST had to go against his ship?
Dude, I'm telling you, the end. Here's a big plan. We have a week until they attack again. I'm going to go get my ship. And then when they attack, I'm going to destroy them. I'm going to do a flyby. Mission over. But we'll carve spears. We'll dig a hole. It's fine. That ATST, boy.
If you give a man a fish, right? Teach a man to fish.
Teach a man to fly a Razor Crest, and he'll have all the shrimp he needs, all the space shrimp he needs for the rest of his life.
By the way, this right here, what you just said, is the total justification for why the prisoner escape episode last season, I think it was just called The Prisoner, is the best episode of that show, because they actually need the Razor Crest, right? Like it's a vital part of that mission.
Exactly.
And it's the only time it's vital to the mission.
Right. They need the Razor Crest, and they want revenge on. That was a tight episode across the board.
Yeah. No, on the rewatch yesterday, I was noticing, hey, this is kind of weird because this show's not as strong as I remember it being. Like especially on the binge and like while I'm doing other stuff and I have it on the background. And it's when I watched it today, the new episode, and I didn't have any distractions, nothing.
Yeah.
I put my phone down. I just completely watched the show, and I'm like, oh, you have to give this show your undivided attention, because if you do, it rewards you by just being completely an immersive experience.
I mean, this episode and in total, it's definitely like a sum of all parts situation where
totally.
it is.
As a whole thing, it's definitely stronger.
Yeah.
Than each slice.
Well, did you guys notice the crate dragon's howl? We've heard it before. We've heard it in episode 4 when Obi-Wan first comes on the scene, and he does that howl. He does a crate dragon howl to scare off the things. And then they changed it in the most recent special editions, and it seemed like the crate dragon howl that they had in this one was kind of a mix of the two. The old one, the original one.
I did not catch that at all. That's awesome. I never knew that was a crate howl that he was doing.
Yeah, so I heard that, and I like that.
God, he must have been yelling really loud.
This is why
he was forced yelling.
This is why we have you on the show right now, Noz, just to be clear.
Yeah. Awesome. Another thing, I brought it in. Good. I'm proving my worth. we talked about more sympathy for the Raiders. I like that. The Raiders. See, I don't have sympathy for them. I still call them Raiders. The Sand Fremen, the Tatooine Fremen. The other thing, really nerdy. I was really happy to see Timothy Olyphant. We've talked about how much we like him, but I also, because I like the meta of the names, and the stuff that they do with names.
Yeah.
Like if I'm working on a story, I like to make a name be a reference, so because the name comes loaded with all types of stuff. And his name being Cobb Vanth, I was immediately reminded of Sheriff Cobb, which is recently deceased Brian Dennehy from Silverado, which was written and directed by Lawrence Kasdan, who is very closely related to Star Wars.
Star Wars, yeah.
And then his last name being Vanth, there's a character from Epic Comics of the 80s that was created by Jim Starlin, who created Thanos, right? Who's now a Marvel mainstay. Vanth Dreadstar was this comic. So Vanth is the only other time I've ever heard the name other than Cobb Vanth. And his facial hair looked exactly like Vanth Dreadstar's. So I cannot think that Cobb Vanth is a mistake in those respects. And I love the meta. And even if it isn't, it should be. Those references should exist because they fit. So I like that.
The other thing also is like, it's just meta in that we get to see Timothy Olyphant playing a sheriff / marshal yet again, like all the time. That's all he does.
Ambiguous sheriff marshal.
I know the show was delayed for COVID reasons, but the new season of Fargo is out right now. Like it's airing weekly, and guess what? Timothy Olyphant plays in that show.
Is he a marshal?
He's a marshal.
Go figure.
Yeah. So it's kind of funny because, I can jump back and forth between the two shows right now. And, there he is again. He's a marshal, or Justified or, Deadwood. But I do think they were definitely intentionally referencing Timothy Olyphant's career, because why else would you cast his co-star from Deadwood as Rick Way?
Totally.
They knew what they were doing.
It's a bundle deal.
It's fun. Yeah. It's a little stunt casting, but and again, it's that meta narrative, right? Like you want to tell as much as you can. I mean, and this is okay. Let's talk Star Wars for a second. As a whole, right?
Now we will.
Just now, let's talk Star Wars. Star Wars. So the only complaint I've ever heard about this show is that it's too derivative. And I said, this was someone who was like, dude, it's homages upon homage. And to me, I'm like,
that's what Star Wars is.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. That's what Star Wars is. And, when you go back and look at George Lucas talking to the guy who wrote Man with 1,000 Faces and saying, am I being iconic enough with these characters? I feel like where Mandalorian's strength lies is that they do that as often as possible. They go for a visual, or they go for a casting, or they go for something that resonates in the pop culture. So you have a ton of backstory just by looking at Raylan Givens, by looking at Timothy Olyphant. You go, that guy right off the bat, I know is going to be trouble for the Mandalorian, maybe.
Yeah.
Right. And it's cool. It's true. And I love it.
They're using pop culture as a shorthand to convey, the parts of the story that they don't have time to get to. So you just have to accept. Yeah, I totally agree.
I talked to Dennis about this a lot, but I'm always a fan of showing storytelling versus telling. Show me something, don't tell me something.
Yeah.
And this show is like one of the perfect examples of,
and
doing that.
And Timothy Olyphant, even if he hadn't done all of those things in his career, he's just such an expressive actor that you can just look at his face and just know, oh, there's a lot going on here. So, that was a joy. Like for me, that's why I said earlier that if you had to bring Boba Fett's armor back, I can't think of a better person to be wearing it than Timothy Olyphant. So I was very pleased with that. Yeah. Well, do you guys have any more like little things or little stuff? Or is it time to wrap this up?
Time to wrap up. Take us home.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think that the thing we like to do just because for some reason we like to put scores on these. which is really funny because hindsight's 2020, and like if I
God.
had to go back and give all those old episode scores right now, I'd be like The Prisoner 10, and then the rest of them are like 7s or 6s or 5s, But for now, today, we're October 29 or October 30th, when
30th.
we just got done watching the first episode of the new season. What would you guys give this episode on a scale of 1 to 10?
I'll go 7 out of 10. It's good to be back. That episode was solid. Had some ant there. I wish we got a little bit more Baby Yoda stuff.
Like not in the show, man.
It was a very light Baby Yoda episode, but a solid Mando episode. And it did a lot right. It checked a lot of boxes.
I just kept wondering, why isn't the baby taking care of this dragon?
Right.
Like it just felt like he was gonna, but he didn't.
So you need it out of the sand? Out of the sand? Is that what
yeah, just out of the sand. Oh, you want me to lift it? Oh, I could do that. Yeah. I got you. Yeah. What about you, Nas? What would you give it?
For me, my gut says about 8.5. And I rate it strictly on entertainment value. I really enjoyed watching it. It was fun. The performances were all solid. The direction was really good. The production values were way up. What I didn't like, we mentioned already, which was some of the derivativeness and like back to very similar episodes. There wasn't anything super, super new in this. But it did what it did very, very solidly. And it was a nice, like Ricky said, like it felt good. I watched it and I wasn't upset at anything. I was just like, I see things. So, 8, I'll call it an 8. 8.5 is a little strong because of those things, but I definitely want to watch it again.
I didn't even look it up. You reminded me. I didn't realize Filoni directed this one. I don't know if you mentioned that.
Oh. No, I don't think we did. But Jon Favreau wrote it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dave Filoni we trust. And so I think
Lord and Savior.
Well, I mean, going a little far. But I will agree with Nas. I have to say, like, as cynical as parts of me want to be, at the end of the day, I got to sit in front of the TV twice, honestly, for about an hour and totally escape the like everything going on in the real world. You know what I mean? And like I hunger for anything that can take me that far away from the world we live in right now. and it was like, as much as I groaned at certain things and I rolled here and there, it was fun, man. Like that was a fun episode. So I'll give it an 8, and then 8 weeks from now I'll be like, you know what, that was a bad episode. But
I'm gonna add a 0.5 because my Disney app didn't give me Blue Circle of Death the whole episode when I watched it today, which was a common amazing thing?
I've never had that happen.
You had an opposite experience from me.
The first season I watched, every episode took twice as long as the episodes were. And this one I was able to watch straight through with no break. So it made it extremely more enjoyable.
I tried watching this.
Disney. Good job.
Nice.
I tried watching it at launch, and it took like 30 minutes after midnight for it to go live, and it was a little annoying. But worth it. Worth it.
I got my sleep, and then I just watched it pleasantly this morning, after a nice shower and everything like that. So, all right, guys. What were you going to say? Sorry.
I got a question.
All right.
Would you consider it a spoiler if, now I know we're talking spoilers, but I opened Facebook today and one of the first things I see, someone posts a picture of Tamora Morrison taken right off the TV, no context whatsoever. And I'm like, bro, 5 minutes.
I don't think the people know who he is, though.
But I do.
Yes, they do.
Star Wars knows.
And honestly, that was Ricky spoiled that for me like a month ago, so I already knew it was happening.
Put it in the spoiler chat.
So if anything, though, if anything,
You had to look.
like I'm happy they ripped the Band-Aid off today. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
so that
that's true.
I am too.
So we don't have to tease that the whole season, like,
Right.
like But yeah, it would be a spoiler. That's why we have a section of the show where we say, hey, if you haven't watched the show, go away. But if you're listening this far, well,
Well,
I gotta say,
Sorry.
too late. Sorry, no, I don't.
Sorry.
Not sorry. But I will say,
Sorry.
thank you for everybody. And before we sign off, I just want to give you guys an opportunity to plug anything that you got going on. I really appreciate that you gave me your time. I'd like to turn it around and use this as an opportunity for you to get people to go find you elsewhere.
I got nothing going on. Ricky the Nerd, Instagram, if you want to check out some photos of me doing not Star Wars stuff. But yeah, have a good Halloween, people. Go vote if you haven't voted. And how about you, Nas? Anything going on?
Hashtag figure photo fight, which is how Dennis and I are keeping in touch. We're taking pictures of our toys, and I feel like I'm going to have to do some Star Wars on my Instagram. My Instagram is Gigamock on Instagram. Same thing that I think Dennis put on my photo here. And go check that out. We're doing that weekly, and it's fun. That's about all. I'm trying to write a book, but that won't be ready for another 2 years, and you'll all have forgotten this podcast by then. So
no, they
won't.
Well,
you'll remember the podcast. You'll forget me. So I'll promote that elsewhere.
Oh, I don't think you heard. We signed you for the entire season.
Oh,
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah.
No, we did not. Sorry.
3-picture deal.
Perfect.
Yeah. I will echo that. What Nas said. You can find me at DenX Media everywhere. You can find me on Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook. I'm all over the place. But yeah, one of the things we got going on is Figure Photo Fight, which is a action figure photography contest where the two of us put a picture up to a theme every week, and I cannot believe that we did not choose a theme that was either Star Wars or election related for this weekend coming up. That seems like a missed opportunity there on our part. But
every one of them, though, you have to vote on, so they're all election related.
Yeah, it's a democracy.
That's true. We do encourage voting every week. So we've been going 16 weeks strong, and it's a fun thing. It's a fun thing to test our skills and see who can impress the fans out there more and more. And then I've also got action figure video reviews / music videos / I don't know how to describe them. I make them because I like them and I like my figures, and I call them Legends in 30, and you guys should check those out on YouTube as well. But with that, I think we're going to be out of here. Thank you so much for listening or watching or however you're consuming us right now. And please feel free, if you liked this, let somebody else know, and make sure to like and subscribe. And I think that's going to be it for this. We'll see you next week for the next episode. We'll have a different guest. Sorry, Nas. But
it's cool. Thanks for having me. Thanks for having me this week.
Yeah. You have listened.
And we have
spoken.